Welcome back to the Salad and Carbs Podcast, the only place where you can get 2 of your 5 a day. Welcome back, Carbs. How have you been?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for asking. Have you been anything happening in your life lately? We've heard about your foot, but anything else going on?
Anything happening in my life? I've got a particular T-shirt on that I might talk about in a moment. In regards to my foot, do you know what? A progress update for everyone else. My partner's actually over at the moment, which is very nice. It's good to see her. And she was rather unwell when she arrived. She had a bit of a fever, and you know what I mean? It was my turn to do a bit of looking after her. And then since Sunday night, since she started picking up, we've been on the recovery mission. We've been on the rehab. We have been on compression socks. So I've had a pair of these ever since I went to Japan. I didn't even wear them on the flight, but I've had them in my drawer. Boom. Put them on for the first time. We've had cold water baths in the morning to put my ankle in. We've had them 3 times a day. We've got them with Epsom salts in, but I tell you what, they're working wonders. I'm walking. I've got a shoe on. I can't believe it. I'm actually able to get a shoe on and walk, and it feels kind of good. Like, don't get me wrong, stairs are still a bind. A few other things I'm having difficulty with. I haven't got all the movement back yet in my ankle, but the bruising has definitely come down. I'm feeling a lot better. So I've got to thank her for that. So thank you very much.
I was just wondering, it sounded like you had like a bit of a Viking bath.
Bit of a Viking bath, yeah, you could say that. Yeah, we enjoy a bit of a cold water vibe. Definitely feeling that Wim Hof. You know, I was trying to breathe in and out. You know, really get deep breaths and get that oxygen pumping around the body.
Shivering at all? Like, were you getting any like symptoms of hypothermia at all? Or?
No, not so bad. But it was just more a case of trying to distract myself from the cold. I think this morning's was the worst one. We count in Finnish, and we were getting up to like, I couldn't even get the numbers out. It was like Kumenta Kaksi Kumenta Kolmi, which is 23. They run a little bit like French numbers, you know. Instead of saying 23, they say 2, 10, 3, 3, 10. 2, 10, 4, and then 3, 10, and so on and so on. So it follows that pattern. I think by the time I got to like 40, I was like, come on. Need to get to 50, because that was the deal. We can get out at 50. So yeah, made it. Feeling very good. But in regards to the shirt, something very cool happened on Monday. I am a little bit gutted I wasn't there. I did try and get some tickets.
Do you know if you were going to be there? I was going to ask that, but you beat me to it.
I don't think it would have been wise, given the state of the ankle. I'd have probably wanted to run on the pit and all the other antics. But yes, Burnley are in the Premier League again. Now, we may come back and cover some more football, because we like our football. And I think that's an interesting angle for us, because you being a Blackburn fan, me being a Burnley fan, you know, I think that is something that we should explore from time to time. However, I am very pleased. It's been a stellar effort from the team. The magnitude of the game on Monday, Burnley being in second and 5 points ahead of Sheffield United, with just 2 games left after that, which, you know, any mathematician can quickly whip out the abacus and work out that if Burnley were to win, then there was no way that they could be mathematically caught. So yes, us and Leeds have been promoted to the Premier League. So I am rather buzzing about that.
Yeah, I remember seeing the footage of the Leeds fans waiting like for the full-time whistle in stoppage time, and they're already popping corks and champagne like before full-time had gone, because they know, you know, you score at your opposition, you score at the other teams. Leeds know for certain Burnley were not conceding 2 goals in stoppage time against Sheffield United, considering how they'd performed all game long. It just wasn't happening. Like, you know, even if Sheffield United would have equalised, Burnley wouldn't have had that automatic promotion, you know, given to them, but Leeds would have still been up. So they was just happy for. They just knew that there wasn't going to be 2 goals in stoppage time with how the game had played out.
Especially not with people like Ben Brereton Diaz on the pitch, that's for sure.
He was getting some stick, weren't he?
He was getting some stick, but that's what you get when you play for Blackburn and you turn up at Turf Moor.
Yeah.
So yes,
it's the same when the boot's on the other foot. It's the same.
Absolutely. You know, if you've had the claret and blue of East Lancashire on and you turn up at Ewood, you're going to be in for a rough ride.
Some of those guys in the NO1, if anyone doesn't know, NO1 is the area of the Blackburn end where, like, they stand up all game and they chant all game. You know, it's the place with the most, place in the stadium where you'll hear the most noise. And, like, those people in that stand, I think they've got some, like, superhuman ability of, like, knowing. Like, so someone could have come on as a stoppage time substitute when they were like 17 years old for Burnley. The NO1 would know about it 10 years later when they like make a start for like Norwich or something. They would know, and like they're absolute freaks for it. But it's funny at the same time.
It's not even they would know. It's you've got to know. You have to know. Have they had any Rovers in them? Have they had any Burnley in them? We need to know because we need to let them know about it. That's how deep the rival runs.
Every single time I play a game, I just guess that like someone goes through all the squad members of the team that they're playing for that week, and it's like, right, we're going to give him some stick.
They probably will. It's probably on the forums. I mean, a lot of that stuff ends up on the Burnley forum. That's where I come across a lot of it. But yeah, you're right. You know, there are some encyclopedias, which is ironic, really, because we probably wouldn't associate those sorts of people maybe as being encyclopedias, but they definitely are when it comes to rivalry. When it matters, they definitely know. But yes, I'm very, very happy. We are going to move on from this because I don't want it to become Burnley got promoted episode. We have started to generate some shorter content, which is fantastic because we have had some decent numbers. I think the last episode we were talking about how we just hit over 100. We're approaching the 200 mark, which is great across both Spotify and YouTube. So that's combined, not separately. And my challenge to you listeners is to tell your friends about it. If there's bits that you're liking about it, share it with your friends. And that's where this shorter content can come in as well. So I'm now on TikTok. You can follow me at Digital Salad. And
I love that name, by the way. That's quality. A Digital Salad. I love it.
My logo is Team Salad. And what you'll be able to do is find some of that shorter content on there. So we are working in the background to curate those shorter clips, and what we're doing is we're coming up with like some one-liners. It may be like, you know, there might be 30 seconds to one of them, you know, it might be a bit of a joke or a bit of a punchline, but basically we're trying to get those smaller chunks that you might feel better sharing with your friends or whatever, and hopefully that'll start to see us creep towards 1,000 streams, because we'd love to see numbers like 1,000 streams, maybe even over 100 hours consumption. I think we've had like 34 hours consumed now, which is not bad considering that we've got 5 episodes out there, so that's like 5.5 hours. You know what I mean? That's like at least 7 people, 7 loyal people who've listened to every episode. So yes, keep it up. It's fantastic. We really, really appreciate you. We're also now on Facebook. We are the Salad and Carbs Podcast, so you will be able to find us. Just search for Salad and Carbs Podcast, and we will be there. And some of the episodes have been posted on there. And again, some of that shorter content will make its way to that platform. Just gives people another option, because at the end of the day, Facebook is huge. It's probably one of the biggest in the world. And, you know, we want to be in those places so we can reach more people. We have more fan engagement this week. We have the 2nd and 3rd. Now, I only noticed this when I actually went on to the comment section. And it came up with the fact that we've got 2 questions from Kira/Matt. And we have a question regarding episode 4, which was Blockbuster Video on Haagen-Dazs. And Matt is asking, I wonder if the rest of Oregon is stuck in the 90s. What do you think?
I mean, it's a relevant question. I mean, because if there's a Blockbusters in there, then, I mean, what else is keeping them nostalgic and dragging them back? I don't think Oregon is one of those states that's like really like, I don't think it's like a California, shall we say. I don't think it's like a New York State, you know, and you're Florida. I think I could be wrong, but I think there's maybe only one major city there. It's Portland, I believe. And maybe it is a bit like that. Maybe it is a bit like, you know, behind the times a bit, but maybe it's America at the end of the day. Perhaps they choose that. I can see you doing a quick Google now.
Always doing a quick Google. It's when you said there was only one city. I'm intrigued.
There's only one major city that I can think of personally. Is it Salem? Salem's there, I believe.
You could be right.
I think Salem's the capital city of that state.
Here we go.
Portland's like the big one.
Portland.
Yep.
We've got Eugene.
Never heard of Eugene.
We've got Salem. We've got Gresham, Hillsborough, Bend, Beaverton, Medford, Springfield, and Corvallis.
Honestly, I feel like there's a Springfield in every state. I think the state capital of Illinois is Springfield.
Really?
Yeah, and there's another one. I've seen another one somewhere else as well.
Okay. Well, my answer to that question is, does having a Blockbusters mean that Oregon is stuck in the 90s? Like, because sometimes things go around full circle. You know, we were chasing that Leslie Cabinet vocal style in the 60s that John Lennon envisioned with I want to sound like I'm swinging on a rope and rotating in the room. And the producer was like, I think I know how we can do that. And then bands are then chasing that sort of vibe again in like the 2000s or 2010. And, things go around in circles, especially like things in fashion. So maybe Oregon aren't necessarily stuck in the past. Maybe Oregon are future sailors.
Yeah.
Maybe they are pioneers. And in 10 years' time, we'll all be shotting eBay cards, eBay Blockbuster video cards, and we'll all be back down to Blockbuster like, listen, fam, I want some of that Haagen-Dazs and I want a copy of Hellraiser now. So yes, that is Matt's first question. But his second question is a rather pressing matter. And I'd like to address this one. Well, I mean, I've addressed the other one, but we're gonna give this a little bit more detail. So the question is, have you considered having special guests on the show? I bet the Dioxide entity would have some stories to tell. Posted by Matt. What are your thoughts on this?
Now, we have actually spoke about this before, haven't we? Like off stream. I think it's like something that, like the points of the topic, I think I'd like to keep between us, because it's like kind of like behind the curtain a little bit. Like, we don't want to reveal like everything about our thought process of how we structure it. I'm open to it personally. I think it'd be a good idea to get the first season done with the format we have. And was 10 episodes you want to get in the first season? Yeah. Take a bit of a break, maybe reevaluate things a bit. We'll have more data, we'll have more feedback to consider regarding these sort of decisions as well. Another aspect that I've thought about as well is that, you know what, say Salad wants to do a recording, maybe I'm not around for a couple of weeks. Could you have like a substitute person to do it? I wouldn't mind that. I won't take that personally. It's another episode. That's an option as well. Again, though, with the similar answer to what I give, I probably wouldn't want to do it this season. But we're always open to these opportunities. It's definitely something we've thought about and we've discussed.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's a lot of places to go with this and explore. And I think if we get special guests on the show, it's hardly Joe Rogan, is it? And we're getting like, I don't know, the expert on such a field. It's like a mutual friend, Dioxide, is on the show as a special guest. Not saying that I'm Joe Rogan or you're Joe Rogan by any stretch of the imagination. But we could end up with every Tom, Dick and Harry on this show. And I think that at some point it would be wise to open it up and get other people on to speak about certain things. There are some topics that I'm thinking about and I feel like a fraud talking about those topics. So there are people that I have got in mind for certain things. But I think we may end up in a place, if we do it too quickly, it'd move away from being the Salad and Carbs podcast to being the fucking Kellogg's podcast, and might as well call it the Snap, Crackle and Pop podcast. You know what I mean? Gillian McKeith's going to be very happy because you'll be getting way more than 2 of your 5 a day. You'll be getting the full fucking 5. You know what I mean? It'd be salad, carbs, protein, fats, sugars. You know what I mean? We'll have the full fucking lot.
Nice.
But I definitely think it's something that we can consider further down the line. For me, probably beyond season 1, potentially even beyond season 2. I want to get that format established. I want to get that listener base opened up a little bit. Maybe this is the dome that's holding us back, the fact that we haven't expanded it yet. So it's definitely there. It's definitely something that we're considering. I definitely wouldn't say no or never. For me, I think personally, if I'm just being completely honest and candid, it would be the kind of thing that once me and Carbs have sort of exhausted our avenues, then why wouldn't you get other people in to create that different dynamic? But I do feel that there's a lot of fuel left to burn for Salad and Carbs.
One thing I will say as well is that it doesn't necessarily need to be for like a full episode either. Maybe like we do these podcasts in sections, even just for like one section of it, a quarter of it. Get someone on who's got an opinion on something. They can say what they want to say, and then we can maybe carry on the discussion instead of carrying the discussion, and then touch on the points that they've made, or move on to a different topic entirely. Maybe they've wrapped it up. It's situational, I guess, isn't it?
That's not a bad idea. I think, giving, like we do with this first part. So right now, we're pretty much talking about ideas that Matt has posted via questions. And please keep those questions coming, because this content is being generated by those very questions. And I think that, we could ring fence it and say, this particular section, if we have got a guest, is we're going to use this space to talk to the guest, or maybe we do 2 sections. Who knows? Like we say, it is something that we're thinking about. So thank you very much for the engagement thus far. I don't think there are any questions on YouTube or anything like that. Nope. So just Spotify. I hope you're happy, Matt. If you've got more questions, please come back. Let us know what those questions are. However, today's episode that's only 17 minutes long thus far is going to be about video games. Can you remember all the way back in episode 5? We actually got round to talking about the Minecraft movie, and I felt that was a nice avenue or some great podcast writing to lead us into an episode on video games. So to lead us in nicely to that first break, we'll come into a quick burn carbs because I need to burn some. I'm giving you 20 seconds to tell us all about video games. Go.
Okay, so video games played on things like PC, computer, games consoles. You know, you've got your Atari, one of the pioneers, Nintendo, huge, Xbox, PlayStation, PC, even Mac as well.
5.
Yeah.
3.
Role-playing games, shooters,
1.
strategy games. See, this time I was actually keeping an eye on the second clock while doing it, so I actually had a vague idea. So I'm getting better at this.
You are. Look at this. You're using all the clues available to you now. There's me cheating with my 20-second timer that I've got up on a Google tab on a second monitor.
It's a vague. It's. I mean, luckily you started that time at around about the start of the minute, so it wasn't that hard to work out. So yeah.
I'm just a professional, you know what I mean? I'm looking out for you. So yes, all about video games. Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Carbs. And thank you all for joining us. It's episode 6 of the Salad and Carbs podcast. We'll be back after the break to talk to you all about video games. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Salad and Carbs podcast, the only place where you can get 2 of your 5 a day. Before the break, we were talking about you, the audience, about how that's slowly growing. We were talking about ideas on how we're going to develop the podcast, how we might get more listeners. We were talking about our special guests, even though we don't really know any special guests, but who's to say they're not special anyway? And then we were talking about video games. Well, Carbs kindly led us into video games by doing a quick burn carbs for us, which is really good because this episode is going to be all about video games. And I think I'm going to kick things off in regards to video games, and I'm going to ask Carbs some of these questions, and we'll have a bit of a discussion around some of these points that I've scribbled out beforehand. The first thing I want to ask you or deal with really is, do you have a favourite genre of game, and if so, what is it?
I think if I was to pinpoint a consistent genre, it would be FPS. I've played a lot of FPS games, and I think going back as far as N64 with your GoldenEye, various of the James Bond games, and your Call of Duty games.
Can we have a bit of a jargon buster for FPS for anyone in the world who might not know what that is?
Yeah, that's a relevant point. I'm too much of a nerd, and I say all these things. I'm going to start saying, like, casually throwing out a phrase like min-maxing soon, aren't I? So, yeah, right, okay. FPS stands for first-person shooter. So,
right, okay.
Yeah, going back to what I was saying, you got your James Bond games, like GoldenEye, the classic one on N64. Other James Bond games have followed. Not been quite as good, but still good, though.
Nothing beats GoldenEye.
Yeah, in terms of James Bond, GoldenEye was the Don. And playing on DK mode, Donkey Kong Big Head mode on multiplayer. That was quality. Yeah, another FPS that I got into was Call of Duty. Played Call of Duty for probably about 7 years or something like that. Like relentlessly. More recently, Destiny. Been playing that since 2014. Oh, that's probably my longest running game that I've been playing more recently. There is a game I played last night that is a first-person shooter, but you're probably going to be surprised about it, Salad. Have you heard of a game called Marathon?
I have not heard of a game called Marathon.
It was released in 1994. Yeah, and I got a port of it on my laptop, which I'm currently using to communicate with you now. And I've been playing it for about a week. And the reason why I did that is because I've been getting into the lore for a new Marathon game that's coming out this year, and it's made by the same developers that have made Destiny. So there's a bit of link there with that. And I'm a bit of a lore themed when it comes to games. I don't just want to go into a room, shoot things, and have no meaning behind. I want to feel like I'm in a film. And honestly, the lore depth on Marathon is amazing, and they're only going to expand on it with this new game. adding to the franchise. So that was part of that. But yeah, quick summary of your answer. First-person shooters, definitely my genre. Do you have any anything to add on that at all? Like any of those games that you've played yourself?
First-person shooters. I'm not the biggest fan. Like you say, you mentioned GoldenEye.
Mm.
And GoldenEye, for me, it was more of a social experience. Like you would play it with friends. You would have 2 controllers, maybe 4. Depends what the situation was. Pretty much, some of your friends had an N64, someone could always bring a pad round. They were pretty robust as well, so, pretty hard to break. But that feeling of split screen GoldenEye was incredible. And it was so fun playing split screen on the same console because you could see where other people were.
Yeah.
And it'd be like, stop screen watching, you're looking at me, what are you doing? You're not... It's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I am going to use all the tools that I have available to me. If I can recognise that you've just walked past those lasers on the Moonraker level, I'm going to use that to my advantage and shoot you. That game was fantastic. And then you mentioned things like Call of Duty. And for me, Call of Duty, I've played a couple. I mean, World at War was all right, because it was sort of relatable. But then I don't know, the weaponry got a bit too futuristic and jetpacks and you fly in and all this sort. And it's like, nah, for me, if we're going to shoot, just shoot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, because that's what ultimately turned me off to Call of Duty. Because, if I wanted to play a military shooter, the original Call of Duty games, like Call of Duty 4, World at War, like you mentioned, Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, they do, they do represent a military shooter. Then they're starting going to the sci-fi realms. It's like, I wanted to play a sci-fi shooter, I'd go play a sci-fi shooter. Halo was around at the time. I chose to play Call of Duty over Halo because I wanted the real experience. Moved on from that a little bit. It's ironic that I moved away from Call of Duty because it was getting too sci-fi onto Destiny, which is a sci-fi fantasy shooter. That's the irony of it. But at the same time, Destiny knows what it is. Halo knows what it is. And Call of Duty forgot what it is.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, maybe as well, you've got to think at the end of the day, as much as the lore is great, because you keep going on about this lore, and games need to have a narrative in order to keep us engaged as players. It's usually the games that don't have a great narrative that we don't play a lot, that don't. What are we judging a great game by? For me, it would be sales. It would be like Harry Kane, and this guy has no trophies. So, albeit he has a lot of goals, you can have as much lore as you want, but if you ain't got the sales or the users playing the game, the audience, then are you a great game? I'm not too sure about that.
Yeah, the gameplay does need to be there as well. The lore can be really, really great and in depth and have so much so much to it. But if it's not fun to play the game, then it kind of stands for nothing. And people could be relegated to looking up the videos on the lore but not actually playing the game, which the game doesn't benefit from. But saying that though, I might be misquoting something, but I've heard something from the original developers of Doom, which is one of the pioneering first-person shooter games. Now, again, I don't want to misquote, but they said something along the lines of, being interested in a story in a shooter is like being interested in a story in a porno film. And I disagree with that, but that was kind of the attitude back in the day. And it kind of shows how far it's come. Marathon did kind of answer them back, by the way. The game that I mentioned at the beginning, they did answer them back. They were like, well, we don't agree with that. We're going to make a game full of lore.
I think this is where different audiences and different, playing styles or, different people want different things. I mean, I've spoken to loads of people and, I'm talking to people at the minute about this very thing. And some people are saying, I don't do podcasts. I prefer a video, or I just can't settle down and listen to a podcast. I just can't find the time within the day. And that's fair enough, because these things suit different people. Some people want to go on a shooting game and just want to fucking blow shit up, just want to shoot people and just kill them. And they need that gratification, that dopamine hit of boom, 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 blood and guts everywhere. Whereas some people are more like, no, the great sage has given me this weapon from the mountain of Mordor. I'm borrowing Lord of the Rings there because I can't really think of anything else fantasy related. But this golden gun that has been made from the breath of the dragon of the planet Rachnel is the greatest gun on the game, and I have had to complete 30 hours and a marathon of a dungeon to achieve such a weapon. And the story that goes behind that, that's for other people. We'll get on to what I'm into and what I'm not into, I think, in the next section, because I want to focus on you.
Yeah,
and I think, to be fair, spoiler alert, if anyone can't guess Corbs' favourite game by now, wow, you're going to be in for a shock when I ask him this question. Drum roll, please. Corbs, what is your favourite game?
Favourite game, it has to be Destiny. As a franchise, there's been 2 games of it, 2 versions of it. There's Destiny, came out in 2014. Destiny 2 came in 2017. Essentially, it was the continuation of the story, only you lost everything you earned from the first game, which annoyed a lot of fans. So it was like a reset. Yeah, exactly.
It didn't carry over.
No, didn't carry over. And some of the weapons as well that were in the first game, you had to earn again in the second game. So, yeah, it wasn't well received. But yeah, I love Destiny because of the aspect of you've got like your story beats, like, there's some really, really big moments in the story where you're like, shit, it's like watching a film, only you're playing out the scenes, you're doing the fighting, you're going through the struggle yourself, especially if you're playing it on hard difficulty or master difficulty, as well as that, you got the story, the actual gameplay itself, because you can do a mission called a raid, which is a 6-man mission where you may have like 4, 5 different encounters in it, and each encounter has like a loot drop. And it's not just about going into a room, 6 people going into a room and shooting things. You've got to coordinate. There's a mechanic. You've got to work out what the mechanic is. You've got to communicate. It's like, right, okay, I need this, but in order to have that, you need to go over there and stand on that to open the door. So that you're getting where I'm going with this, don't you? So that's what I like. I like the teamwork of it, the puzzle aspect of it, I guess, but it's also incorporated into the shooting as well. You could be in that raid, and you know exactly what the mechanics are. If you can't aim, you're dying. You can't defend yourself, you're dying, and then you're a lot less useful dead than you are alive in a raid. And I'll tell you that for free. So yeah, Destiny franchise favorite game has to be.
Okay. No, I like, there's overlaps with a lot of stuff that I like there, team games. I've always enjoyed playing a co-op over something single player, but don't get me wrong, there are some single player games that I really do enjoy, but there is, there is something satisfying. And like you say, you mentioned loot drops, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? People want the loot, people want the exclusive stuff, give me a skin that no one else has got, or give me a weapon that's got such a perk on it, or, these game developers are geniuses, because how do you keep people coming back? Well, you reinvent the wheel, don't you? You bring out an LMG, but this time you can put a certain scope on it, or this one camouflages against the background so people can't see you, or where I'm going with this, because they want to keep. And to be fair, how ruthless is that? Did you get loads of games in the first game? Well, we're bringing out game number 2 now, and it was badly received, but I imagine there's not many FC United of Destiny fans out there. I bet they all kindly got bent over the barrels and said, hello, Destiny 2, yes, we will come and play you and grind our weapons again. I bet the backlash didn't last for that long. But it was definitely heard, because if that came out in 2017, well, we've been 8 years into this incumbent, or this version, and we haven't seen a new one yet. So I'm guessing that people definitely, that feedback was heard, because maybe there would have been a number 3 in the pipeline. But you know what I mean? If people have been grinding for 4 years and then you're taking that away from them, I would have been pissed as well.
Yeah, I can see that. And I think what you might have been alluding to as well, like with the whole, you want this machine gun, we'll put a scope on it, or now it can get this perk on it, or never mind the last one you got 2 years ago, you can get this one, can get this. We're talking about a live service game here, and it's something I want to touch on with Destiny, is that there's no real end to it, and I think that's what the devs want. And I have also heard as well that Bungie, the developer of Destiny, they even hired someone who's an expert in addictive personalities. So, I mean, they've been open about it, but it says it all, what they wanted to achieve by hiring someone who's and has the knowledge of that. And like it's funny because like you can get a weapon that's like this sniper does fire damage, and they release like a couple of years down the line they release another sniper that does fire damage, and some people say, well, why would I need this one? I've got that one. I don't need to grind for that one. It's like, well, this one's got a different perk pool. With this one, if you get incandescent to roll for it, you kill something, it spreads fire onto everything else, and people are like, oh, what? Mine can't do that. I want to get that. So then you grind for that. In the meantime, there's another weapon type with another damage type that's done the exact same thing, that's not necessarily overlapping with what the weapon I've just mentioned is. So they know exactly what they're doing. They could make they could make weapons for their elements and their types good now, the best version of it now if they wanted to be. They don't want to do that. They want to stagger it because they want people to grind for the slightly better version of it, then the slightly better version of it, better version of it. So it gives the game the longevity.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a feeling we'll touch on these perk rolls and element types and things like this as we move further into this episode. But I do want to ask you, have you got a favourite character from a game?
Character, it's hard to say. In terms of Destiny, it's hard to say because you are the main character, but you just called the Guardian. There are other characters in it, but you don't play as them. There are a few characters from other games where I've become somewhat attached to. There was a game called Red Faction Guerrilla, which I got I was really happy with what they did with the main character, and that was called Alec Mason. There was another character as well. There's a game called Mirror's Edge. Love Mirror's Edge. First person, not a first person shooter, first person parkour game. You played as Faith Connors, who's a runner, and she's jumping across the rooftops and things like that. That story was good. I mean, other games, you're talking Pokemon, I liked some of the Pokemon that are in the game. You have your favourites, don't you? So essentially that's, that it works that way. But also you got your classics as well, like your Mario, Sonic, et al. It's there's a lot to choose from. I don't think I could pick one. I mean, I think my bum's hurting here. We're sitting on the fence too hard, but I'm just gonna have to say there's many of them that I like for different reasons.
The classic answer of any grandparent: who's your favourite grandkid? There's too many to choose.
Well, yeah.
So that leads me on to the next question, and I am wary of time, so I'm going to press you. I want this answer kind of quickly, not exactly quick burn carbs quickly, but I'm going to ask you: have you got a best moment in a game?
Best moment in a game. So the best moments, again, fence sitting, probably not a best moment. Best moments have particularly come in Destiny, where you've had the turmoil of defeating a high-end activity, and then the rarest loot dropping for you. Oh my god, that's what I've been after the whole time, and it's dropped. Or you get it and no one else gets it, and then you feel like a god amongst everyone else because it's a rare drop and you have it. Also, as well in that game, there's been some real jaw-dropping moments in the story. If you follow the lore like I do, watching the lore and things like that in the videos, yeah, there's been some real jaw-drop. And I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, so I'm going to stop talking before I do.
Okay. So I think that concludes this section, unless you've got anything else that you want to cover before we go for a break.
No, I think we're all right there. I think we're. I'm ready for you to talk about your opinions on it in the next section, to be honest.
Okay. This is the Salad and Carbs Podcast. We are going to head for a break. We will see you on the other side. Welcome back to the Salad and Carbs Podcast, the only place where you can get 2 of your 5 a day. Before the break, we were talking about everything Destiny. It wasn't just Destiny, there was a bit of GoldenEye thrown in there, a bit of Mirror's Edge, a bit of parkour. It was a first-person parkour game, an FPP. But we did have a lot of FPSs in there, which we had to get sorted because, if you're a cameraman, that's frames per second. But in the gaming world, it's a first-person shooter. But that's the crazy world of jargon that we live in today. LOL. Anyway, we covered RNG, random number generators, how loot was dropped, and, all different types of weaponry and perks and luring games. Very, very fascinating. But I have a feeling that we're going to hop over to the other side of the fence now, and I'm going to hand over to Carbs.
No, yeah, cheers. Thanks for the discussion in the previous section. Enjoyed it talking about that. To express myself like that, you asked some good questions and you had some good points to make as well. So I'm going to flip it here and going to ask you the question. Do you have a favourite game genre, or do you have maybe a collective of favourite game genres?
Favourite game genre? I think when I was younger, and I think obviously the inner child lives on within us. We just get older and a bit more, stubborn or boring. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just a grumpy old man. But when I was young, I enjoyed an RPG, role-playing game. Couldn't beat an RPG. You could get lost in it, you know what I mean? You were talking about lore earlier, and we sort of discussed games that have, what are we measuring games by? For me, it'd have to be sales, because is that not what tells you that a game has been popular? I mean, yeah, they might have had great ad campaigns, but trust me, there's been games that have had huge backing and been shit. And then there's been games that might have not had as much backing, but they've been great. And how do we know they were great? Because of the amount of people that played them. Have they stood the test of time? So yeah, I did enjoy RPGs. I think over time that then did develop into, I don't know, like a sports game / the odd racing game's all right, depends. So on the gameplay, like you said, some games are really good to play and fun, and then some games are like really, I don't know, I find some racing games are like hyper realistic and very difficult to play. If I wanted to drive that badly, I'd just go outside and get in the car. I can do that, so I might
agreed.
as well. But then I think there's like a new genre that's sort of come out over the past decade, and that's the Battle Royale, which we will get into, which really is what we'd call a third-person shooter. But yeah, RPG for me is probably my favourite go-to.
Do you class Pokemon as an RPG? There's a bit of a side note, because I personally do, but I know people say, oh, it's not an RPG, but...
Depends which way you look at it.
Exactly.
For me, you could call Destiny an RPG. There's that much lore in it and that much story involved. Like you could call it a role-playing game, albeit we shoot things and we're from a first-person point of view. Pokemon, yeah, it is an RPG, just with a hell of a lot of Pokemon battling, and the occasional dungeon and puzzles to solve, and what game isn't a game without a puzzle kind of thing? You know what I mean? There's always an element of there is something to solve here. There is a set of circumstances by which you have to traverse. From the traditional side scroller of left to right to, now we have levels. Maybe we're not going just from left to right. Maybe we're going up and down now to eventually, 3 dimensions. And now we are moving across a map forwards, backwards, left and right, so to speak. Yeah, role-playing game for me.
Okay. So a little bit of a side track there. Sorry about that. That's fine. I want to ask you, do you have a favourite game?
Do I have a favourite
Where do I start?
Do I have a favourite game? I'm going to get sore ass from sitting on the fence.
Contagious.
But if I had to, it is contagious. It is on this podcast, that's for sure. But the amount of money I've had to spend on Sudocrem since I started doing this podcast is unbelievable. And that's not because I've been banging my head into road signs. For anyone out there who wonder, if you know, you know. But yes, favourite game. There's going to be 2. One is Final Fantasy VII. The other one is Fortnite. For very different reasons. Final Fantasy VII was probably the first game as a child, and Zelda is very, very close. If Final Fantasy VII was the pint, then Zelda would be the chaser. It's not far behind. Final Fantasy VII was ridiculous. It was over 3 discs. The story, for me, was great. At points, I must have been like 7, 8 years old. Of course, I can read everything, and you understand it on your child level, what's going on, but really, I just want to fight the bosses. I just want to collect all the materia. Probably didn't understand how it worked properly. I just wanted the best weapons, best limit breaks, the best things. I wanted the high wind airship so I could fly around the world map and collect all my stuff. But in subsequent plays over the years, I think the last time I did it, I was in my 20s. I just 100%ed it. I just absolutely smashed it. I collected everything, got all the summons, got all the materials, all the attacks, leveled everyone up to level 100, just went absolutely crazy. What a game. Like, really, really good, and the story was compelling. Same with Zelda. Obviously, Zelda's Final Fantasy is a huge franchise. What we all know, Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy Dissidia, Final Fantasy Online. There's so many iterations of the game. There's certain ones. In fact, I'm currently playing Final Fantasy 8, the remaster, which is, PSX, but I'm playing it on the PS5 because when I was younger, I got to the beginning of Disc 4 and I couldn't beat the boss. So my goal is to beat the boss, and I think I'm going to smash it, to be honest, with the trajectory I'm currently at. Zelda, for me, Ocarina of Time, what a game. Alongside GoldenEye, for me, as like a pioneer of the genre, because I think this was the first Zelda where we'd moved from 2D Game Boy tackle to actually being 3D and running around a map and being able to get on a horse and, just move Link as a human being. Fantastic. Unbelievable. And again, the story, so good. Very samey, you know what I mean? Zelda, princess, gets in trouble, some shit goes down, Ganondorf turns up like, hey mate, I'm going to fuck you all up because I'm bad and that. And then Link comes along and goes, hip, hip, And then, he doesn't even speak. He doesn't actually talk. He just makes noises. Turns up with his sword. And you know what I mean? Ganondorf gets banged. Boom. Everyone's happy. But there were two that came out for the Switch. One was Breath of the Wild. Incredible. The way that they brought it back to basics, but with like all mod cons. You could like teleport between places and like do fast travel, which wasn't a thing on the older games. If you wanted to go to the other side of the map, you were going to get on your horse and go. If you didn't have an horse, you were going to walk. Good luck with that. Whereas now you can fast travel, which means that, developers can make the map bigger and, more biomes to explore, like snowy places where you need certain clothes on. Very, very good how they do these things. And then obviously Tears of the Kingdom came out after that. And then obviously that broke new ground, because it wasn't just one map then. You had a map in the sky. So you had a world map in the sky and a world map on the floor, and then you had a world map in the depths. And obviously I got like Skyrim overlap here, because in Skyrim you could go underground to Blackreach and stuff. So for me, very, very similar, but fantastic the way they did it. And then obviously my other game is Fortnite. And Fortnite for me, I was never into shooting games. I could just never get into them. You know what I mean? Like you get involved in some conversations and people are like, yeah, but what's your KD though? Yeah, but what's your KD though? And it's like, mate, what the fuck are you even on about? What is a KD? Is this something I order from KFC? Like, what is this? Yeah, but mine's like 1.2 and yours is like 1. Mate, you're on a 0.4 KD, mate. Are you serious, mate? You can't even be in my party anymore, mate. And that's, I was like, I'm sorry, what? I clearly don't speak the language. So yeah, I weren't a big FPS fan or a shooting game fan. But then Fortnite came out, and Fortnite sort of blew it up. But Fortnite came out on the back of the Battle Royale thing. So PUBG was getting a lot of traction. PlayerUnknown's
Battlegrounds.
That's the PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds. Thank goodness you're here. Yeah. That was a battle royale. For me, it was a bit. I've tried playing it, and it's just not. I just don't enjoy the mechanics. I don't enjoy the gameplay. But then Epic Games brought out Fortnite, and it was in beta for so long. But they did that because it doesn't cost Epic Games or a game developer as much money to update a beta version of a game than an actual game. So if it runs in beta for, I don't know, 2-3 years while they get going, then obviously any costs for updates after that are irrelevant, because they've made the money. And the funny thing is with Fortnite, Fortnite originally was a tower defense game. So there is a mode on Fortnite, and this is where I was thinking of Destiny, because I actually have the tower defense mode. So I have what's known as a founder's account on Fortnite. Which is cool, because if I do a daily challenge, I get the in-game currency, which is V-Bucks. I get those for free for doing daily challenges. So if I do so many daily challenges, I can just buy free shit, you know what I mean? If I want to be Hatsune Miku, or if I want to be Goku, or I want to be, the umpteen costumes that they bring out for the game, I can usually get them because I have the V-Bucks, because I have it's called Save the World. So basically Save the World, I'm getting, probably not the same as Destiny because it's Fortnite, but basically tower defense mode, you have a rotation of missions, like you said, there'll be a mechanic, there'll be something you have to do. So usually, you might have to go around and save survivors, or you might have to protect a base, or you might have to protect multiple bases, or you might have to destroy encampments. There'll be certain things that you have to do, usually relying on you building a base and then protecting that base from said monsters. And they're called husks. And there's different types of husks. It's just Space Invaders on steroids. It's just Space Invaders on a 3D map.
Variation on a theme.
Yeah, they come in waves, and then the waves get tougher, and then different types of Space Invaders come along, and we have to kill them. There's different classes, and there's different weapons, and you were talking about, this weapon has such a perk, and I've got the vacuum tube sword, and I've got it maxed out to its highest level. And the thing is that when you kill someone with that sword, because I like being a ninja, and a ninja you can have a team perk, so you have a support team, and you can really set your loadout up to, you can basically be invincible if you set it up right. So that sword, if I hit someone or I hit a husk, it can chain lightning to 6 other ones. So the thing is, if I hit one, it then splinters and then the next thing crowd control is ridiculous. And I have a perk where if you attack someone with a sword, you go into shadow stance. And when you're in shadow stance, you regenerate your shield. So if I'm just meleeing husks, I'm just regenerating my shield and all the husks are dying. Now, don't get me wrong, like there's other ones who come along and disturb the floor, but like you said, those perks on those weapons, very, very similar to Destiny. But you know what makes me really laugh is the rarity system on Destiny. So like you have your common and uncommon and rare, epic, and then legendary. Fortnite borrowed those same colours and the same order for the rarity of weapons in Fortnite. But the Battle Royale does have its own lore, does have its own story. So each season, some shit goes down, or, you know, the writers of that game have got some mad chops because the next thing you know, Fortnite classic characters, something happens, and next thing you know, Doctor Doom's here. Like, what? Doctor Doom turns up, Spider-Man turns up, Iron Man's here. Ice Spice, Nicki Minaj, Snoop Dogg and Eminem were on it. Yeah. Thanos has been on it. Eminem had a weapon. If you got Eminem to be on your team, he had a minigun and it sang Rap God. So when you shot it, he went, and the words flew out of the gun. Honestly, unbelievable. But I think it's genius what Epic have done because they've become such a mainstay of culture. And like most of those costumes are cosmetic only. They don't give you any benefit, really. I mean, it's arguable now. I've got a Goku costume and I can actually change from like Goku to Super Saiyan Summer and to Ultra Instinct. So basically his hair changes colour. So technically I could shoot someone as normal Goku, run into a building, change into my yellow one and sort of make them think that I'm a different character. Chances are they're going to think, nah, mate, you've just changed. But for me, that's a slight little perk that you might get. But yeah, I'm wary of going on for a long time. But yeah, Fortnite for me in more recent years, just because I play with my partner a lot. So obviously we're in a bit of a long distance relationship. And Fortnite is one of the only games where you can play cross-platform and be in a party with someone across a platform. So I can be in a party with her, she's on the Xbox, I'm on the PlayStation 5, and, you know, it's no problem. And I think that's really cool, and I think more games need to tap into that. So yeah, that they are my favourite games.
Yeah, I think it was nice what you said at the end there about like you get some degree of like bonding time with your partner because obviously, as you mentioned, it's long distance, and like Fortnite's like the vessel to do that, and I think that's quite nice. You know, it's always going to hold a place in your heart. I find with that.
Absolutely, you were talking about the team building aspects of Destiny and how you like going on these raids, and you know, there's certain things that you need to figure out. And you know, it was hilarious at the beginning because we tried a couple of games. We tried Apex, and we played Apex for a bit, and she was really good at Apex, and I sucked, to be honest. But Apex, you can't play as a squad; you can only play as a trio, and like to play these games and as a duo, you're really reliant on one of the people being really good if they're going to carry, or both of you being at like 60 to 70% decent to be able to win or do well. Whereas on Fortnite, I'm not bad. I'm all right. I wouldn't say I'm like best in the world. Otherwise, I wouldn't be, doing the things I do. I'd probably be like a pro Fortnite player. I'm by no means a Fortnite pro, but I'm not bad. And, it's been great to watch her development because at first it was all about like, oh, what does this weapon do? What does this weapon do? And then I'd be in a house looting. And then the next thing you know, the wall would come off and it's like, what's going on? It's like, oh, I just wanted to test out this rocket launcher. You've died. What's happened? Oh, I fell off a mountain. Right, okay. So, just a case of like testing things out and getting used to things like, and Fortnite have a really good rotation on the Battle Royale mode of weapons. So they'll bring weapons back or they'll try new weapons out. They'll have weapons themed with the season. So if it's a Marvel season, we had Iron Man gloves and Doctor Doom stuff, and we've had water bending from The Last Airbender and all that sort of stuff. Honestly, it's fascinating. The amount of thought that goes into the different weapons. I really do enjoy it, but I think it's been interesting to watch her development using those weapons. One of her favourite weapons is the bush. So there's little bushes on the map, and then at one point they brought out a weapon that's a bush, and basically you put the bush on,
disguise,
and then you just crouch down and you're a bush.
This reminds me of like Metal Gear Solid sort of stuff where you hide in a box.
You can hide in bins and also you can hide in portaloos and all sorts. But yeah, this one was actually one that you could wear and you could be a bush. But yeah, do you know what? She's got really good at it over time. And that problem-solving element, that teamwork, and nice bit of bonding. It's nice to have a collective goal to aim towards. And me, I'm a fiend for doing quests. Me, if I've got weekly quests, season quests, I love doing all the quests. I'm very quest oriented. Whereas I think my partner's more, I want to put a bush on, I want to jump off this mountain, and let's see what happens. And and I think those two sides, we bring the best out of each other, and we do win quite a lot.
Yeah, it sounds like a bit of a yin and yang. Like you're in it for like the completionist aspect of it because you want to feel like an accomplishment, whereas she's just like, I want to have fun. I'm going to move on slightly from there, if you don't mind.
That's fine.
Do you have a favourite game character or maybe a collection of them?
I do, and I'll be brief on this one. When it comes to game characters, I'm going to have to go to Final Fantasy VII because there's two characters in that game that are just unbelievable. One is called Sephiroth, who is the main enemy. So he's like a tall guy who wears black armour, big shoulder pads, and he's got long grey flowing locks. And he has a weapon called the Masamune, which is like a huge samurai sword. Incredible. And then obviously his nemesis, the good guy, the protagonist, Cloud Strife. And he's the guy in the purple, I don't know, it's like a jumper type thing. And he's got one big metal shoulder pad, and then he's got his purple pants on, and his blonde spiky hair, and he has what's known as the Buster Sword on his back, and a big clunky sword. So yes, for me, it would have to be Sephiroth just edges it over Cloud, even though I love them both, because without each other, they wouldn't exist.
Yeah, I think you touched on something good there about story, and that, like, in order for a good guy to be, as valuable as they are, they need it's an antagonist that makes them as valuable as they are, and vice versa. If you got a good guy, and then the antagonist is they're a tough person, it shows how much of a threat they are to the world that you're in. I hope you don't mind me ask another question. Flipping what you asked on me before. Is there a favourite gaming moment of yours?
I want to be all cliche, like a broken record, but there was a moment in Final Fantasy VII, and if you haven't played Final Fantasy VII, I'm sorry, but it was released in 1997, so you've had your chance. At the end of Disc 1, there is something that happens, and the characters are assembled in a place called the Forbidden City, and it's like the City of the Ancients. And Ares, one of the female characters in the group, she's like the last surviving member of the Ancients. And then some shit goes down. And then there was cutscenes in these early Final Fantasy games, so obviously the graphics were quite clunky and they can be quite hard to look at because they were so primitive. But in these cutscenes, they were quite smooth and quite nice. And Sephiroth just emerges from the ceiling with the Masamune, and he just glides down the screen, and then he impales Ares with the sword, and he kills her. She dies. And I was like, what the hell has just happened? And it was literally like, shit, what am I going to do? That's it. She's unplayable now for the remaining part of the game. You've got 2 discs to go. If you didn't level her up or get her limit breaks, you didn't know it was coming. So if I have spoilt it for you, get leveling Ares up in it. You know what I mean? Enjoy Disc 1 while you can. And it was a shame, really, because Ares was all about healing. She was a healing character. You could have done with a little bit of that healing later on in the game. But yeah, then it cut to the, and Cloud had to lay her body down in the river. And honestly, sad moment. And obviously, as a child, it was very, it was harrowing. It was like,
heartbreaking.
Yeah, pretty much. And then more on a mind blown or a positive note, I'd probably say GTA 5. Like when GTA 5 came out, and I remember going around to a friend's house, and they had 2 TVs and 2 consoles in their living room, and then they joined each other in a lobby. And they just like got a helicopter, and then they got in the helicopter together, and then they did like the jump out of the helicopter and parachuting Mount Chiliad. I just remember sitting there like, what is going on? This is insane. Like, because that was like when the penny dropped that games were just gonna get shit hot from this moment forward. Honestly, it was like, whoa, man, what is going on? And since then, I've dabbled on GTA 5 Online. I still think GTA 5 Online races, some of the best racing you can play on a console. They are incredible. But yeah, they were the 2 standout moments for me. Which brings us to the end of this section, because we are going to go for a break. We've been heavy on a lot of Fortnite in this section. but we are going to come back to a bit of Destiny because I'm going to give you a quick burn carbs to tell us all about Destiny. Go.
Okay, Destiny, first-person looter shooter. You can play on your own. You can play with friends. You can do raids, do strikes.
10.
Get all the exotic loot, level your character up. You also got all these
5.
types of space magic with void,
3.
electricity, and solar, and even darkness subclasses
1.
now.
Boom. Wonderful. Thank you very much for that. After the break, we are going to stay on the video game theme. We have got a couple of other avenues to look at, but we are going to go for a break. You're listening to the Salad and Carbs Podcast. Welcome back to the Salad and Carbs Podcast, the only place where you can get 2 of your 5 a day. Before the break, we were talking about all of my favourite games. We were talking about my favourite genre and how my bum was hurting and how I've spent so much money on Sudocrem since I started this podcast because I'm forever sitting on the fence. We talked about my favourite game or games because it's very, very hard to pick one, isn't it? We talked about favourite character and I was quite good at this. I was definitive. I had 2 favourite characters from the same game. And then we talked about favourite gaming moments, which leads us into this final section of the episode. And I'm going to ask Carbs, what are your thoughts or what is your experience with indie games?
Now, I haven't delved too far into indie games. I've played a few games on like Xbox Arcade on the 360. I mentioned Marathon before, and Marathon 2 got re-released on 360, and I have downloaded it, and I will move on to that. So I guess that's an indie game I will play. In terms of what I have played, I mean, it's not an indie game anymore, but Minecraft was at one stage. I've definitely played Minecraft like that. On the Xbox Live Arcade, there was one I did play for a little bit, actually, now I mention it. It was a remake of one of the Sonic games. I think it might be like Sonic 3, where you can play as Knuckles, is it? Played that for a little bit. Other than that, though, I think I mainly do just tend to stick to my AAA titles. How about yourself? Have you got any under your hat that you want to reveal?
I do like the odd indie game. It depends though, doesn't it? Because with an indie game, we talked earlier about, does a game get a lot of marketing? Does a game have a lot of resources, like the bigger game studios, like the Bethesdas of the world, the Square Enix, the Bungie, they have, a lot of resource to use on these AAA games, as you're calling them. Whereas the indie game, it could be one person on their own designing the game, or it could be a small team of people designing that game. And then I guess it's down to, how good is that game? Is it something new? Is it something different? I have played a few over the years. Now, remember when we talked about films and we talked about I'd watched films that I weren't particularly keen on,
Yeah.
and I was exposed to these films by a certain individual.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this very same individual exposed me to a lot of indie games. Avid gamer. And to be honest, I used to just enjoy him coming round and playing games on my console, and I'd just sit and watch. Because he was a good gamer. He gamed well, I guess you could say, and it was just enjoyable to see. So one of the games that he was really good at was called Super Meat Boy. Have you heard of Super Meat Boy?
I've heard of it, yeah. I've seen like speed runs of it and like these like videos on YouTube where they'll do like top 5 players of the week where they'll get like viewer submissions and stuff, and then like someone submitted like a speed run of Super Meat Boy, and it doesn't look like an easy game. It looks difficult.
Super Meat Boy is hard. I mean, I've completed it. I've never done a speed run or anything like that, but he used to do speed runs, and it was just fascinating how he knew that, like, the mechanics of the game. If you're going to do a speed run, you need to do it. You just need to go because the game allows you to do it. The window for a speed run is there. Just fascinating how, that game works, and basically it's similar to Minecraft. You're just one square of meat, and you have to save the princess at the end. But you could run and stick to the wall and slide down walls and honestly, just really simple and clever, very, very addictive. The levels weren't that long, but there'd always be like 1 or 2 obstacles that you really struggled with, and you'd be there on like try 107, like, for fuck's sake, I'm gonna fucking do it this time. And then you'd manage it, and then that dopamine is just so addictive that you just end up rattling through the levels, or maybe you don't rattle through the levels, but you're still trying to because it's so addictive. So yeah, I love Super Meat Boy. I thought it was great. And then that sort of led on to a game called This Is Hard, which is just sadism in a game. As the title suggests, they ain't joking. this is hard. I can't really remember anything off the top of my head. I seem to recall maybe like a ball and some spikes that you weren't allowed to touch. Yeah, that game. Safe to say I didn't complete that one, because that game was ridiculously hard. And then I was looking at a list of top indie games, just out of curiosity, because I had a few more on my list. And there is one that I played very recently. And I only played it because it was actually free. So I'm sure Xbox do a similar thing, but every month at PlayStation, you get 3 games per month that you can download for free. And this game was one of them recently. It's called The Stanley Parable. So when it was there, I looked at it and I read the blurb and I thought, this game sounds mad. Like, it literally sounds berserk. So I'm going to download it. And I didn't just download it, I played it. You know, the file size wasn't too big, so it downloaded relatively quick. Very, very interesting. And I like the concept because it's quite philosophical. So basically, you are in an office building and you're in room 427, I think. And that's where Stanley works. And Stanley works in the office, and today is just like any other day. Stanley is given instructions, and then he repeats the instructions on his computer. Except for one time when there was no instruction. Stanley did not know what to do. So the game is basically narrated, and it's from a first-person point of view, and it's all about choice. So the game is about endings, and the choices you make create a variety of different endings. Now, from what I can gather online, there are 42 different endings to the game. But you can only get each one by doing different things. So, you know, a very common thing that happens on the game is if you walk through an open door, the minute that you've walked through it, it will close, meaning you can no longer go back through that door. However, you soon figure out that if you walk halfway through a door and then back through it, that door will not close, leaving that door open, which might then have a knock-on effect later on in the level, which might open another door. It's very, very fascinating. I found myself getting lost in it for, a good hour or so, just thinking, what the fuck is going on here? This is fascinating. Does that sound like a game that you would enjoy?
Yeah, it sounds like you're talking about like a game that plays on the butterfly effect.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and also as well, you reminded me of how an adventure book plays. Have you ever read an adventure book before? Have you ever seen the film Bandersnatch? It's a Black Mirror film.
I have, yeah, where you could make the choices.
Yeah, you reminded me of this. I've never played this Stanley Parable, never even heard of it. But how you describing it, it sounds like a game version of an adventure book, which is what, Bandersnatch was based on how an adventure book works.
Yeah.
But I think with the difference with this one, though, is that if there's different endings, then like you get the ending, and essentially you could complete the game once, and that's it. All right, completed. I got an ending. That's it. You could go. If you want to delve in deeper, you could maybe view all 42 endings, whatever number it may be. Whereas in reality, an adventure book, there's only really one ending. Barring getting killed along the way, there's only really one ending. But yeah, it kind of transcends that, doesn't it? Which is pretty interesting. What are the graphics like for this? Like, what's the actual gameplay? Do you just walk around the first-person view and you walk through doors and walk past tables? And how many choices do you make?
There's quite a few choices, and a lot of it relies on memory as well. So you'll go down so many branches, and then you'll think, oh, well, I did that last time, but I've got the choices here again, so I need to do this one this time. Very, very fascinating. I would definitely recommend it. I think you would enjoy it. So yeah, Stanley Parable is another indie game that I've enjoyed. And then a couple more on the list. One that you mentioned was Cuphead. Now, I've never played Cuphead. Have you?
Never played it, but I've always liked the visuals and the aesthetic of it. It reminds me of that really, really old Mickey Mouse artwork style. And I've never personally come across anything like that, and I thought it was quite original. Maybe it's been done somewhere else. I'm not entirely sure, but I feel like it's got to be the first because of how popular it became. But yeah, it's meant to be really difficult, though. In terms of the gameplay, it's meant to be really, really difficult. You said you never played it yourself, you were saying?
No, I've never played Cuphead, but obviously, I've got friends who game and stuff, and I've heard that I completed Cuphead, and it's sort of a bit of a trophy, you know what I mean? Or I've platinumed it. I've never got round to playing it, but I've seen videos of it, screenshots, and like you say, it's got that 30s, 40s aesthetic to it. I think the soundtrack is similar as well.
Yeah.
So, they play on that era. It's definitely something I may check out at some point in time. But yeah, it does sound interesting.
Yeah. Have you heard of a game called Five Nights at Freddy's?
I have heard of a game called Five Nights at Freddy's.
Have you played said game?
I haven't played it, no.
You seen anything about it? Any footage on it at all?
No, I've seen toys of it though.
Yeah, right. So I've never played it myself. It's kind of ironic, I'm the one that brought it up. I've never played it myself, but I've watched a lot of playthroughs through it because I got quite into that and the lore to it. I just never actually wanted to play it myself because I just thought like the amount of hours you've got to put in there to get all the outcomes on it, you've got to be twitchy as hell to get with your reactions to it and stuff. I thought, I don't want to invest my time into that. I'd rather watch someone who has invested lots of time into it and is now good enough to do it. Now I can see what happens when you do that. And I followed the story and it's pretty messed up story, but it looks fun. It looks fun. If you don't like jump scares or like horror films or anything like that, I would not go there. It's pretty scary.
Right, okay. Is it a jump scare game?
Oh,
Because
yeah.
it's definitely not going to be for
that's
me.
its main bread and butter is shitting you up.
Right, okay. Yeah, I doubt I'm going to get round to that one. I mean, I'm a little bit tame of me, which brings me on to my last game. And I mean, it's tame, but is it tame? And it's Rocket League. I was surprised to see this on an indie
nice.
list. But Rocket League, for me, very similar to that Top Gear episode where they use the cars and the minis to play football with. And then all of a sudden there's a game. Like, what? You can drive cars and play football? Incredible. I loved Rocket League for a certain period. I got well into it. I think the highest I ever got was platinum rank. But I played with some people. There was an old colleague of mine and he was like, oh yeah, I play Rocket League. Do you want to have a game? He was Grand Champion. Like, kickoff went and he's on roof. I'm like, how are you even doing this? He's like, oh, it's easy. It's easy, he says. There's me doing backflips into my own netwick ball. But yeah, I enjoyed Rocket League. I like the physics of it. And, at one point, I could do the flying and, hitting the ball down or doing a little bit of dribbling in the air. Yeah, I did enjoy a bit of Rocket League. And Rocket League, a little bit like with Cuphead, the music, was quite catchy. I think there was an artist on Rocket League called Monster Cat, and
I've heard of them. They've done a lot of EDM music. I used to listen to this stuff.
Yeah, EDM.
Ampersand
by
Monster Cat is one of my personal favourites from them.
Really?
Anyway, continue. Go on.
I think that's probably on Rocket League, But yes, that's bringing me on to the question of, have you got a favourite soundtrack or a favourite piece of music from a game?
I mean, I don't mean to be beating the same drum, but the Destiny soundtrack is just incredible. Like how it sets the world, how it sets the tone. It's all like a full-on orchestral job, and it's to a point where I actually listen to some of these soundtracks in my own time when I'm not playing the game. Like I can be like, right, okay, I'll listen to something now. What do I put on? Screw it. I put on Vow of the Disciple Encounter 2 theme tune on. Go on YouTube, get it going. Like, good. I love it.
Do you know who the composer is? Or the artist?
It was Michael Salvatore until he got laid off by Bungie, unfortunately. But he has been working at Bungie. He was working on Halo, let's put it that way. But he's only been laid off maybe in the past year. I want to say 1 year, but it might be longer ago than that, slightly longer, maybe 1 to 2 years. But yeah, Michael Salvatore, check out his stuff. Do you have a favourite gaming soundtrack at all?
I do. I think for me it would have to be the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack, who was composed by a Japanese artist called Nobuo Uematsu. But Nobuo Uematsu has composed many game soundtracks. Done a lot of the Square Enix stuff, and I'm sure he's done other stuff as well. But like you say, some of it is orchestral, and you can go and watch, Uematsu perform these with an orchestra. And there are, sometimes I just want to listen to the MIDI, the old MIDI tracks from the 1997 game, like, because obviously we're getting into the realms of music here, but the way that the 8-bit music or 16-bit or 32-bit music worked is slightly different to having an orchestra down at Abbey Road or at Maida Vale. Getting the old mixing desk out and sorting it out properly. But yeah, fascinating how, you could put the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack on and I'd sing every single song, note for note, perfect. But I do like some of the reimagined versions, if you will, like the bigger pieces, let's say. I think we'll wrap up because I think we're hitting that time where we get to the end of the episode. I think in the next episode, we will talk about music, which seems pretty straightforward. We've just been talking about games. We've moved into soundtracks, favourite pieces of music. We had a brief look at that in the indie games. So I think in the next episode, we'll definitely move on and we'll talk about music. There is something you want to ask me, though. It's a debut for this feature. Take it away.
Yeah, it's a brand new feature. It's called Salad Dressing. We touched on it before. I ask him a question. He gives his opinion on it. It's pretty simple. But, he doesn't know what I'm going to ask him. So what I would like you to give your salad dressing on today is Scott Parker as a manager.
Brill cream, a Cockney accent, and a flannels jacket.
Nice. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Thank you for that.
No problem. This has been the Salad and Carbs podcast. Thank you very much for being with us. We really, really do appreciate it. We will see you in the next episode and we'll be talking about music. Sayonara.
Bislemma.